Here we go. All right.
Hello, viewers. I have been waiting for Cristiano for approximately 34 minutes now, and he finally decided to show up.
Yeah. Well, I was actually brushing up on my LCS so that I didn't look like a total fool on this fine evening.
First, he reschedules, says he can't meet Thursday, and then we declare a time for Wednesday, and he's 34 minutes late.
Yeah. Well, as far as
What do you
the
have to say
Thursday,
about yourself, man?
as far as the Thursday rescheduling, all I can say is love doesn't have a schedule. So sorry,
Boo! Boo!
Yeah.
That does not make me feel better. I can tell you that. All
Well,
right,
I'm glad to see you here now, man. I'm ready to
let's
chat.
get into it. I'm over it. What do you want to talk about?
So, so playoffs is coming up soon, Greg. I'm sure you know this.
Mhm.
And so that's one of the most exciting times of the split. I would say the very beginning, the first couple weeks, and then playoffs is sort of the other exciting time of the split. So I figured
So
we
you
could
want to
talk a
talk
little
about playoffs?
bit. Yeah, I figured we
Okay.
could talk a little bit about playoffs. Long story short, yeah.
Right. Well, I think one of the teams I'm most interested to see in playoffs is Dignitas.
Mm. Yeah, that's
They have been in a really exciting story this split so far. I think their team identity right now is kind of just Dardoch figures out the early game and then they win through good team fights. They're a big team fighting team. That's how they progress. Last week they played TSM and TSM was really close to beating them, but they recognized the strength. They were like, all right, we're just going to give up the drags, not going to even fight around them. But then they got to Soul Point and they had to fight, and Dignitas won.
Got that soul, that nice mountain
They
soul,
got the
right?
game. Yeah, so they're a team I'm looking forward to in the playoffs. I think one thing that people don't really know about Aframu, or maybe some of the newer league and LCS fans, is that he has a very unique way of shot calling. Most shot callers, if you listen to comms, are all like everyone's spamming a name, right? They're like, Kaisa, 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 Kaisa. What Aframu does is he calls out what the other people are doing. He talks about the other team. He's like, Thresh is gonna flash in here. Watch Thresh, or 6 seconds on their Thresh queue. Like he's calling out. That's his style of shot calling, which is pretty cool.
That's really impressive to be able to call stuff like that on the fly. It takes a lot longer to say that than to spam the name over and over again. So the fact he's able to navigate like a frantic team fight like that, pretty impressive. But yeah, Dig, they're becoming realer and realer in my eyes. I was first seeing a little bit as a fluke. I don't know. They're starting to win me over a little bit. I think their ADC Neo had a really great split. I mean, they went 2-1 weekend. They went 2-1 this weekend, further sort of cementing that second place seed. And yeah, can't wait to see what Dardoch and the gang have in store for us in playoffs.
Yeah, I think they're a team that I think as playoffs progresses, they're going to have less of a chance of winning. I think the first series, whoever they play, they have at least a 50-50 chance, maybe a 60-40, but I think each consecutive series, when you only have one real play style, someone's going to figure it out and you're going to get exploited, and they haven't really shown to do much else than what I described previously. So I think they're a team that could have a big upset, but I don't think they can win it all.
If you had to put money on it, where do you see them going?
I think they'll. So I'm gonna guess they finished third, right?
Third. Okay, that's not bad though for this sort of cobbled together roster. You know,
Or third for the split. One and two get buys, right?
I know 5 and 6 are in the losers bracket already. So then it's 1 and
Okay.
2 versus 3 and
Okay.
4. I think. Yeah.
So they're gonna play TSM most likely, 2 versus 3, 1
I think
versus
so.
4.
I think I heard them say that on the broadcast. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because Dignitas so far is 2-0 over TSM for the split. They seem to have their number. They're kind of similar teams in a way. I guess we can segue into TSM a little bit, but TSM also seems like they're not the strongest early game team, but they have really good chemistry outside of the game. Not necessarily just team fights, but they're good at they bleed a lot early game, and then they're really good at stemming that bleed that slow bleed until they can like take over. I feel like that's kind of how I see them as a team.
I feel like there's been a crazy amount of upsets this split. I don't know if you've felt the same, but I feel like almost every other game or something, someone's upsetting someone else, and TSM is pretty good at it. I'm really impressed with Power of Evil, though. I think I mentioned this before, but the meta form right now is so good. Victor is only rising in prominence. He has a great Victor. And then the big three is your Oriana Syndra. He's all very proficient on. Just a good asset to have.
He picked out Seraphine this weekend, so he's expanding his champ pool as well.
I saw that. Yeah, I was a little bit worried, but all right. So we had TSM and Dig.
But wait, back on your point real fast. I think one thing I was thinking about was I think there have been a lot of upsets, and that's probably a result of this best of one format, which recently I've been thinking kind of, I feel like I've been listening to different podcasts and different analysts and stuff, and a lot of people are saying in different interviews, like Alfari, I watched one of his interviews, and Sword Art, they're both highlighting best of ones as an issue for NA because teams are really reluctant to experiment in best of ones, because if you want to go for a hyper aggressive comp with some unique early game plays, if you try that against a good team, you can lose. If you try it against a bad team, your chances of losing are much higher because it's kind of like a feast or famine play style. So NA resorts to this like easy champions late game team fight style, and then once they get into worlds against best of three teams who have practiced both, all of the different styles like side laning, hyper aggressive players from China, I think that's an issue going forward. So that might be one of the reasons why there's been more upsets too.
It's always good to get practice in like best of series for when you go to international play. It might not seem like it, but there's really like some stamina involved with sitting up there for multiple matches in a row, like concentrating at your hardest. So that practice can only be good for them,
And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people going into playoffs still have Team Liquid as one of the top two teams alongside Cloud9, even though their record isn't super indicative of maybe how skilled they are. A lot of people are giving them the benefit of the doubt, because it does seem like in a lot of these best of one games, if just one player is a little bit off, which has been happening to them, then maybe there's a turning point, you lose the game, but they still look really strong when you go top down from the roster, and they all have playoff experience except maybe Alfari. So what are your opinions on Team Liquid as of right now? Where do you kind of rate them?
I think it's exactly like you say. For some reason, there's the official LCS standings and then the standings in my head, and I feel like TL should be way higher up on there. Alfari, I feel like, has been having some interesting games, or not the best, which is kind of disheartening to see after he was supposed to be like the savior of NA top. But yeah. And Jensen is kind of a rock as always. I'm confident in Jensen against pretty much any matchup he has to go into. Even Perks, I think he can at least neutralize, I would imagine.
I mean, he's a rock, but I haven't really seen many like takeover games by him this season. He hasn't.
I've always
kind of really done that.
I don't know. Maybe I just don't watch the right games, but I always think of Jensen more as like a stable player than a super aggressive one.
I mean, maybe, but still, if he's like a top, he's been kind of top two mid NA, like according to most people, alongside Bjergsen. Maybe they've had their different seasons being better, but I think Power of Evil has had better carry performances than him so far. Same with Perks.
Yeah.
Like as a when you're looking across the whole season. But like where do you kind of are they like your second strongest team? Like, do you see them getting to the finals, winning it all, bounced early? How do you feel about them?
Yeah. So I would have to say, I think they can make a deepish run. I would put them maybe at semis, and
Do you
then
think they're like the second strongest team behind Cloud9 or someone else?
I feel like the two teams that are vying for like second place right now are TL and TSM, and I don't know. This is literally what I'm waiting for playoffs to see, sort of who can come out on top. Honestly, I feel like it could be TSM. Yeah.
What about like EG and 100 Thieves? Do you think they maybe bounce back, or do
I
you think
wouldn't be
their
buying the
season's getting
stock
cut
for
short?
EG and 100 Thieves, unfortunately. I think they've shown
Mm-hmm.
way too many weaknesses and like random weird games where, you know, what happens in those EG games sometimes.
Hey, maybe.
Svenskeren,
Yes, Svenskeren. I've been saying.
yeah.
But maybe they've just been five head this whole time, like throwing games. Maybe they're actually scrim gods. They've been practicing with Dignitas all along. They're throwing all their games so they can get Cloud9 in the first round. They have the magic formula for taking them down.
Nice and early.
Cloud9's going to come in all cocky, and then all of a sudden, Svenskeren turns into C9 Svenskeren, and it's game over.
Hell yeah, bro. That sounds great. I'd love to see that. I want nothing but the best for EG. But
I mean, one comparison that just popped into my mind was maybe it was like 2017 or whatever. It was Immortals' first split in North America, and TSM had just acquired Yellow Star from Europe. He's like an all-time goat of a player, great shot caller. And the team was stacked. They had Haunter, Svenskeren, Bjergsen, Double Lift, and Yellow Star, and they had a terrible season. Immortals season, they went like 17-1. They looked uber dominant, and then they get into playoffs, and all these Svenskeren looks like a completely different player, especially, and they managed to 3-0 Immortals, which absolutely no one was expecting. So maybe he does that again.
yeah, I remember that was a famously tragic year for Immortals. But yeah, EG unfortunately too exploitable. I think that Hecarim play by Svenskeren in the river where he gets super low and like is able to disengage, and then he decides to actually I'm going to go back in for a second helping, and he just gets bodied. I was really scratching my head watching that.
Yeah,
And
his Mundo game didn't look great either.
yeah, 100 Thieves looks honestly, I think better with Ryoma. I think he plays the meta well right now, or those are like his best champions at least. He doesn't play it that well, which is why I'm about to say I don't place much stock in them making a deep run because he seems like he's not going to take over a game for sure. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I think 100 Thieves are having an identity crisis as of late.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the season, their identity was really clear. They were playing TF Galio, and then all of a sudden they stopped going towards it. The champs got banned, and maybe they lost confidence in it. And Demonte was trying to play other picks like Azir and was getting solo killed by Perks level 2. And I think that Demonte and Power of Evil actually have a lot of comparisons. This is one of Power of Evil's main strengths as a player, in my eyes, is that he identifies his strengths and weaknesses very early within his team, and doesn't matter the meta, he's a mage player and he sticks to mages. Demonte doesn't seem to have the same, maybe it's his egos that's too big, or he just doesn't understand this, but he is good at Kiana, he's good at TF, he's good at Galio, he's good at roamers, and I don't see why the team doesn't try to just make that play style work.
Yeah.
Maybe they lost faith in him and they're like, okay, Ryoma, it's time for you to go. But I think that's the wrong approach. I think look at other leagues, see what champions Demonte can play into this play style that the team was so strong with early on in the season.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this earlier today, actually. So I think the reason they're vying away from the TF and the Galio is because those picks were super dominant among like many teams, right? A lot of teams were playing those champions, and So this sort of more scaling mage playstyle, I think, has come in as like a counter to those more passive laners. Like TF or Galio aren't going to be exerting a huge amount of pressure on you in lane, right? So you can take like the Azir, you take the Orianna, and really scale into that late game well.
But see, this is what I'm saying though. It doesn't matter that maybe Azir and Syndra and Orianna are meta. If you can find your own meta within a meta, that's just as strong. When they aren't meta, Power of Evil is still playing them and he's still winning. So by the same token, Damonte should still be able to play some other champ that can maybe sacrifice a few waves, get another lane ahead, take an early turret, early rift, early objective control, swing that into the other side of the map, things like this. Maybe it's not meta, but I still think the best way for this team to really succeed. Maybe they've been doing it in scrims and it hasn't been working. I don't know, but
hear me out, man. Ready?
I'm listening.
Talon.
Talon?
Yeah.
You think that's the answer?
It punishes these like scaling champions, right? It has like the highest first blood rate in the game, and it's an excellent pusher and roamer. Now that I'm thinking about it, I want to see Damonte play Talon in LCS. He played that Kiana. It's kind of the same-ish play style, you know?
But I also feel like Talon's the type of champion to thrive in solo queue. I don't know the last time there's been a Talon in pro.
Yeah, I can't
just
remember.
Because like when he's bouncing over walls, just a single ward kind of just stops him, I feel like. And then if his roam stops, you need to get like an early first kill. If you don't, the game's just over.
Yeah, I wonder, do you know what he's building now? I remember he was like building Gale Force when that was super, super OP. But I don't know what he builds now. Maybe like Prowler's Claw, Duskblade, maybe something like that. But what if there's like this hidden OP build that turns him into a monster?
I mean, a few seasons ago, or many seasons ago, we had Keen playing Hecarim mid into the likes of Ziggs and stuff. Maybe he plays Hecarim mid or Nocturne mid. I think Nocturne mid is something I think it could really get destroyed by some of these mages. But there's definitely a pick out there.
Yeah, there's a champion.
Maokai mid, that could be something that has sustain. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right that there's a champion out there's gotta be that has like this perfect combination of traits to flourish in Damonte's hands, I guess. But hopefully they find out what it is. Hopefully we see Talon one way or the other. I'd like to find out.
I don't know if that's something you blame on Damonte or the coaches or the rest of the team. Because I feel like they're a pro team. They must have like considered this, but maybe they haven't.
I think that a lot. I feel like a lot. Like you have to imagine they considered this, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, they're not doing it.
But one thing you were talking about to me before the podcast was jungle champions and how they're going to impact in playoffs. Yeah. So what are kind of your trifecta right now of top one? I feel like Hecarim, Lilia, and Udyr kind of like the top three, and Olaf top four. How do you kind of rate them?
So I would say, in response to you, I would say Udyr is still kind of at that top level, that top echelon. If you can get Udyr, you want him. He's banned, I feel like, so many games, but we just don't see him because he just gets like first banned. And then I think it's down between Hecarim and Lilia opposed to Olaf. I think Olaf can maybe fit in comps that have like Orianna or other shielders and like healers, stuff that can speed him up. But largely, I think Hecarim and Lilia are the two best after Udyr. And I heard on some podcast someone saying that they felt, I think I Will Dominate was saying he felt that Lilia was superior because of the sort of utility you provide all game, even if you do bad with the sleep and the seed.
Yeah.
But I feel I feel like
my fault. Go on.
Yeah, I just feel like in NA, we're not that good, and so this Hecarim really seems to be taking over games sometimes and racking up scorelines. Yeah,
and that's definitely part of like a best of one. Hecarim seems like a, I don't know. I think if Hecarim gets behind, I'd argue he has more initiative over the game than Lilia, because you can kind of just like throw yourself in at the other team and at least be a bruiser. and take up some players. But Lilia, I don't know. Like I see Demonte's or I Will Dominate's point too, but you can't just. I feel like you can't really say that because like then you could say the same thing about TF. Like you always have a gold card, which like yes, true, but like I feel like a tank that can build Conqueror, that can have Conqueror, just will do more even if you're like behind. Because like this past weekend we saw Cloud9 versus TSM. Cloud9 quadruple buffed TSM, and they had a level 6 Lilia against a level 3 Hecarim, and it was like a 60 CS gap, like it was like 100 to 40 CS, and TSM still won the game, and it didn't even like C9 had a huge gold lead early, and later in the game it didn't look apparent at all. It looked like TSM was always on the front step, even though Hecarim was so far behind.
And yeah, I think finish up.
No, that's all.
Okay. But this new build too that people are taking on Hecarim, where you go pure tank with the like turbo chem tank. I say Kerbo Tem tank way too often, but the turbo chem tank, that might play into it a little bit because he's now this hugely durable juggernaut that seems to do a lot of damage still. And yeah.
Get Alec out of there. But yeah, I think we're kind of saying goodbye to the tank junglers. I don't think we'll see any Sejuani or Zach or anything along those lines. I think movement speed, bruisers, or anyone with movement speed is kind of meta right now for the jungle, especially since camps aren't worth as much. So if you can get off ganks faster and maybe sacrifice less time traveling around the map, which a lot of junglers are doing right now, it seems to be beneficial. Champions like Fiddlesticks, Zac, Sejuani, they don't have the same mobility that Lilia, Hecarim, Udyr, Olaf has.
Yeah. And not to leave Olaf out there. Some of those games Blabber has on Olaf are truly incredible to behold. But I just feel he's a little behind on the other champs, especially when it comes to the scaling aspect, late game.
Blabber?
No, like Olaf.
Or Olaf.
Yeah, Olaf. All these other champs scale, decently to very well into the late game, I would say. So with this later gameplay style, I think they're just a little bit above Olaf.
I definitely think we could see some Rek'Sai this upcoming, or Rek'Sai in playoffs. I think we could see some of that. Blabber's the only one that's really picked it out, but he's another champ that has a lot of mobility and dive pressure onto a backline. So if you pair him with like a Kai'Sa, they're similar in that Kai'Sa gets a long range W skill shot off, and then she can ult in. And same with Rek'Sai, he has that like bolt that he fires underground, and then he can ult in. So another champ that you can add to dive comps. Maybe Hecarim's Fear with his ultimate is a little bit better than Rek'Sai's kind of invulnerability, like OP Prowler's Claw turned into an ultimate ability. But
yeah, I hate to break it to you, man. Rek'Sai is actually a female specimen, fine female.
Oh
specimen. Yeah. But Rek'Sai it's been so funny that we've only seen Blabber play this champ and only do well on it, and no one else has decided maybe they should give it a try, I guess. Do you think other teams will play it other than Cloud9, or do you think it's a Blabber special?
I don't know. Maybe it's because of the best of ones we haven't seen it as much. So I think best of fives, maybe it'll be more likely to show up.
You know what? I bet Dardoch plays it.
Oh yeah, Dardoch can definitely play it.
You can add it.
I think looking at the yes, many played champions. I think looking at the mid lane though, maybe someone that I would like to see some teams pull out is the Anivia. Anivia got buffed a couple patches ago and has been, when she's played in my solo queue game, she's very strong, and she's actually banned a lot of the time as well. Talk about another female champion that isn't a girl, Anivia. But I think Anivia is something that some teams should be looking at to play because it has similar impact as like Victor, I think.
For sure. It's got like more CC and zone control too, which can be nice in certain team comps. But somebody call Froggen. Someone sign Froggen real quick. Get him out there.
sign Froggen, stick your top laner on Poppy, and then 1-2, bada bing bang.
Yeah. So I think we've chatted about all the playoff teams, right? Except there's that little thing, that little scuffle at the bottom between Evil Geniuses and Immortals, where they're one game apart. So that's gonna be interesting to watch this next weekend to see are Evil Geniuses even going to be just a not even playoff team when they started the year so strong? That would be kind of crazy to me. But also, Immortals are picking up wins for sure.
Yeah, next week, some big games to watch are TSM versus Evil Geniuses and TSM versus IMT. Because both Immortals and EG are fighting for that last seed. Maybe we see a tiebreaker. And TSM's also fighting for the second seed, so all teams are coming in probably with their main play styles in mind, trying to get these wins because they actually mean a lot this season.
Greg, I think even TSM could be looking at that first seed. They're one game behind Cloud9 right now, you know? I think they could feasibly take hold of first. Even funnier, so is Dignitas. Imagine that.
Well, Cloud9 and Dignitas actually play next weekend, which kind of hurts TSM.
That could be the deciding factor, yeah, because then you make a difference of 2 between them.
Yeah, either team that wins, it kind of hurts TSM, I guess. I think I'd rather see Cloud9. Well, because who's the fourth seed is Team Liquid, right?
Are you calling that?
So I don't know if the first seed gets to pick 3 or 4, or if 1 matches with 4 and 2 matches with 3. Because if so, then I really want that first seed, because I do not want to see Team Liquid early. I don't want to see Dignitas early either, because I think that's when they're going to be at their. Maybe I would want to see Team Liquid early. Honestly, people are saying they look good in scrims, but it seems like there isn't a real stage, but they're having, in quotations, stage fright issues seemingly. So maybe I actually want to see Team Liquid early.
Yeah, that would be if Team Liquid was 4th place, right? Because 5 and 6 go into the losers bracket. But what happens if 100 Thieves claims that spot and we get something like Team Liquid?
They won't.
Thieves.
They won't, buddy.
You don't think so?
They're swapping out mid laners this late into the season.
That's a good. You always know you're in trouble when you're swapping out mid laners a couple weekends before playoffs. It's a good sign.
When you have Reddit podcast analysts telling this team what they should be doing and they're not doing it, something's wrong.
Something's up. Papa Smithy, what are you doing back there?
But they are a really strong team. Like individually, their players are strong. It just really seems like their identity. They're kind of the opposite of Dignitas. No offense to Dignitas players, but at the start of the season, we were rating the 100T players skill-wise really highly. Dignitas pretty low. Mm-hmm. And seemingly Dignitas's identity has gotten them to where they are.
Yeah, I listened to our first podcast earlier, and we were clowning Dignitas.
Is that why you were late, man?
Yeah, that's why I was late.
You're listening to our other
all
podcast?
All my time went towards listening to episode 1. Yeah. But no, I was laughing about like, ha ha ha, Dignitas. And now look at them. Who would have ever thought?
Dignitas versus TL. We don't even have to talk about this game.
Yeah, exactly. That's something I for sure said.
But I think TSM, I'm really liking TSM. It seems like I watched this like TSM Ask Questions thing today on YouTube, and it was pretty wholesome. The whole team seems like they get along really well, which I think is really beneficial right now, because maybe it seems like maybe Team Liquid's having some internal beef, like Jensen maybe yapping away at some of his other teammates, but TSM all look like they're just happy to be here. So I think in a best of 5 series, when you have that confidence in each other and you have that confidence in your coach, that can also go a long way.
Yeah. We didn't mention it really, but Tactical had a few weird plays this weekend too. Slightly concerning when you're coming into playoffs.
Yeah, Tactical, I don't know, man.
He was doing so well, and then like one wheel fell off.
I think Azir. I'm not Azir. Perks too didn't look great this weekend. I thought.
Yeah, he had a few weird deaths. He was just like clearing blue buff all by himself with no vision, and he just gets bopped. Yeah,
He was
some weird stuff.
also in the game against like Team Liquid. It was like 0-0 kills, and he just went in with a Shurima shuffle into like their whole team, trying to scoop out like trying to divide like this, and then he just died.
Yeah, I mean,
in his Victor game too against TSM, he was pretty irrelevant in that.
Excuse me. It's hard not to be confident about Perks going into like playoffs and best of situations. He has such a legacy of clutching it out.
I think I also watched Double Lift and Medios. They had a co-stream talking about the TSM versus C9 game. And Double Lift was saying this, and I really thought it was true, where C9 seems to always go into the playoffs with a bad meta read. So that's one thing you could kind of fault against C9. Just historically, they've ever since like the early dominance days, they always seem to be doing weird stuff. Right now, they're going with like a no engage, Caitlyn Morgana bot lane
Caitlyn
type of composition. And last season, it was Ezreal Yumi bot lane. And I just hope it doesn't happen again this playoffs. I hope they don't like tunnel vision onto singular play style because maybe it's working in another region or something. I just want them to go back to like what was succeeding for them. I don't know. It seems like they can fire on all cylinders, and I think that's what they should be doing. I really hope they don't tunnel vision into a single play style unless they're just winning with it.
Yeah, like we didn't see very much Senna Tom Kench this weekend, did we?
I don't think so.
I don't remember a lot, but like they looked super dominant on that. I think that's still a very powerful bot lane they can run. But yeah, that's a funny point that they always have bad meta reads. That insistent as Yumi last year was absurd.
Mm-hmm. I also think Senna Tom Kench just suits them really well as a team. Sven has always been known as this kind of player that plays like Sivir. I think he has the record for the most CS in a game in Europe. Like he's similar to Reckless, where he just kind of farms up and he'll have a slight lead going out of lane phase, but he's not one to take over games from lane phase. So when he's pulling up the Caitlyn, I think other teams are almost happy to see that.
Yeah, and so what do you think about this Caitlyn generally and like the Jinx that's starting to get picked? Because it's like sort of an answer. I heard somewhere that it's like this Kai'Sa priority. People pick Kai'Sa or like blind even. And then like the Caitlyn is picked to dominate in the lane, and like the Jinx is supposedly picked because you don't get punished so hard by Kai'Sa that you can scale a little safer. But
I think in general, Kai'Sa, Tristana are the two best ADCs that I think every team should be trying to take. But I think it's good to practice champions that could work into them. I think one lane that hasn't been explored much this season, I think Immortals pulled out the Draven once, but I think Draven Leona is a combination that can really destroy a Kai'Sa early game. And especially if you play maybe a Hecarim and look for bot dives consistently, that's one way to really take out a Kai'Sa from the game. And like you were saying last week, Immortal Shield Bow on Draven is actually really good. I played against it, and then me Draven went like Mortal Shield Bow. He got fed early, and instead of going like attack damage, he got a Mortal Shield Bow, Tab Eyes, and kind of was like this off tank, like you know those lifesteal tanks that we kind of see sometimes.
Yeah.
He was kind of playing that type of build. I think that's something that could maybe show up, especially Immortals this upcoming weekend. If they're pulling out some of their wild cards they've been practicing, that's what I'd like to see them use to fight for that last spot, because Lost will just auto lock Kai'Sa whenever it's available.
Yeah,
and they're playing TSM.
Definitely the truth. I double checked, but Senna was banned against Cloud9 versus TSM, so that's probably why they didn't pick it. But yeah, hopefully we see it.
So, anything else up with you?
I've swapped to top lane recently.
Another role swap.
Yeah, I'm so bad. I swap like every couple weeks. But I'm playing almost exclusively Renekton and
You would.
winning
You
like
would, you little
50%.
Renekton
I'm
abuser.
at a clean 50% win rate. So I guess I'm at the elo I belong. Hard Stoke Gold 4.
Speaking of Renekton, Huni played Renekton last weekend against C9's kind of no engage comp, and he went Prowler's Claw, which is a really good
I don't like it.
itemization. No, it was a really good itemization choice in that game specifically because he just needed to get onto anyone and stun them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I
Oh,
thought
so
it
you
was a
like
good pick.
the point and click dash?
Yeah, because they were also squishy. He didn't need to do damage. If he stunned someone, they were going to die regardless.
That's interesting. I always think of Prowler's Claw for like that 10% damage amp or whatever. But compared to like this big old dash that you will like follow through flashes or jumps or blinks or whatever, maybe I'll have
I
to
think you can.
utilize it.
I think you can do that sometimes on like TF too. Like if
Prowler's
other
Claw?
teams, not Prowler's Claw, but if you're against a super squishy team, you can go first item that like the attack speed extended range item. You know that one?
Oh yeah, rapid fire cannon.
Yeah, you can go rapid fire cannon first because it's kind of like you hit a gold card and they die.
Yeah, it gives you like more utility, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe I'll have to try that out. I don't know like what matchups I would go Prowler's Claw. I think I saw did Huni play it against Nar, I think?
Yeah, but it wasn't really for the Gnar. It was like
For the rest of the
Caitlyn,
team.
Morg, Gnar, Victor, Lilia, like all just squishy champions. So they were just playing dive with Hecarim and Kaisa, and so Prowler's Claw added to that dive.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about top lane is that holy moly, Urgot is broken. Now that I'm thinking about it, I might even expect it to be picked in playoffs when it gets to the current patch because he gives me such a bad time with any matchup I try to go.
Mm-hmm.
He's so tanky.
Urgot's just like a slow champion, though.
He is, but he's so tanky. He does so much damage. He has like a decently long range slow, that can set up the E. I mean, they're probably a lot better at dodging it in LCS than I am. But I think it's pretty good. We'll see.
I think 2 picks that are slightly interesting, or 3 picks that are slightly interesting to me are Nasus, Yorick, and Rammus.
What?
I think
these 3 oddball champions.
Yeah, I think Yorick and Nasus, just because like they're silent. If you're just like gonna sacrifice, let's say you're going against a GP, and you have a really early game focused team or something, you can just pick like Nasus as your late game insurance, or just Yorick to like run him down the side lane. And then also, I just think Rammus is pretty strong right now in my solo queue games.
Yeah, and I bet someone will pick an AD heavy comp at some point during playoffs. All right,
I'm always confused. Sometimes I see super AD heavy comps and like people are still buying Merc treads. I've seen that a couple times. I can't remember specifics. And maybe the tenacity is that valuable. I feel like Tabi just does more though.
Yeah. Man, full AD teams in solo queue are the bane of my existence. Because I'm playing Renekton every game, so top is always AD. And then we had a Kayn jungle, a Yasuo mid, and a Yoni ADC, and then a Rakan. Oh my god. Oh my god. I wanted to die. But
yeah, they just build Tabis and you're donezo.
yeah, in that comp, Tabis were like 2,000% gold efficient or something. Something crazy.
Mm-hmm. Definitely items. This has been the story this season, which is I think a good thing, because Riot came into the season saying, a lot of champions just have set item builds, but we want to add player choice into the games more, where you go in with a general idea of what you want to build, but because of how the comp played out or how certain situations go, maybe you deviate a little bit. Like we saw, like And I just think it's refreshing to see. We see Prowler's Claw on Renekton, which isn't built often, but you can still do it in certain ways. And PoE whipped out Berserker Greaves on Azir. That's another cool thing. But that's really been the story of the season, which I think Riot went into with the intention of doing so. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. You mentioned Berserker's Greaves, but cooldown reduction boots are being picked up a lot now, I noticed, by like junglers, some like bruisers, even some mages. But,
yeah, they're real strong.
Do you take them on Shaco? What do you take on Shaco now for your boots?
I'm still generally, I'll go like attack speed on my AD, and then I switch it up on AP. But actually in the early game, rushing boots for junglers really is pretty good. And the fact that it's like 200 gold less than every other boot item,
ones?
yeah, it's like 200 gold less. So it actually has like a big impact.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about that aspect. That is a significant amount, certainly in the early game where you're backing for like components like Vampiric Scepters or BF Swords. That 200 gold can really make the difference between like being able to buy one of those and not.
Yeah, it's 900, and all the other boots are 1100.
Wait, is it 900 total with the brown boots or altogether?
Yeah, so it's just 300 and then plus the 600, so it's 900.
That's so cheap. I didn't even realize.
Yeah, and CDR or ability haste is pretty strong on a lot of champions.
Yeah, it's always super nice to have some ability haste going for you, especially on champs like Renekton.
And fun fact, it also gives your summoner spells ability haste.
We love flash W and carries around here. Yeah.
Maybe that's what Demonte should be doing. Just Russian Ionian boots on a champion with teleport.
Yeah,
and then
click CC.
You get to dodge the skill shots, sacrifice some waves, teleport into other lanes.
I wonder if you could play Pantheon. Was Pantheon nerfed recently? Or no?
Yeah, he got nerfed, but I still think that could be that's a really good idea.
Yeah, because that's like maybe a little more meta than the Talon was. You have maybe even better roam power with the ultimate.
So. And you have longer range with your Q to maybe longer cooldown.
Yeah.
And then you can block skill shots. I don't know. It's kind of like Nocturne, except just safer and better.
Yeah. There's a lot of champions that are better than Nocturne.
I think that's actually a really good idea. Maybe you'd get wrecked early.
Quick, get Papa Snippy.
See that.
No, early? Oh my gosh. Dude, do you think you're up against Orianna or Azir or Syndra and you're Pantheon, you're getting railed early? I don't see it, man. Although I think someone did recently in LCS.
Well, you can just get pushed into your turret, and then you kind of get chipped off on your turret. But
maybe you go Corrupting Potion or something.
Another champion could be Set. He was pretty big in Worlds. People were playing in mid lane. I think he got nerfed, or maybe he's not that strong right now. But he has like solid wave clear and a shield that he could maybe be a decent mid lane champion. That's AD or Rumble. I still think you can just push a little easier, rotate.
One of the things about Set I remember learning was like his push was so strong because against ranged champions, he could walk into the wave, take the poke, and then use the W, like increase damage from taking more damage to clear the wave super fast. And I don't know, maybe early game against these low damage mages that could work out well.
I don't even know Set's abilities, to be honest.
What? He's not that new, man.
I know his like ultimate. I think his passive's like a double hit, and then he has like
his Q. Oh no, you're right. No, you're right.
What is his Q?
His Q is just like an empowered auto reset.
Oh.
Yeah. And then he's got the clap. He's got the clappers. And then the big shield where you punches.
Yeah, I hate Set. I was permabanning Set for a while last season.
Bodied by one today. Like really, really disgustingly bodied. I was like 0-9 or something.
One thing that's been working in some of my solo queue games, whenever I see it, is Tom Kench top, which it sounds super troll, but
I've seen it every now and then, but
When you're just slapping someone a few times against another tank and you just eat them up, spit them out towards your turret, you stun them, you have Conqueror, like Grasp or something. Like you can play Tom Kench into Scion, for example.
free meal. I should play more Scion. Scion's pretty good.
Drew was spamming Scion.
True. Yeah.
One last. I'm all set. If you want to wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. So, real quick, I want to give a shout out to our biggest fan. You know who you are.
God. What was?
Not God.
All right.
Shout out to our biggest fan.
You. That's you.
Nope. It's our biggest fan. Not everyone's our biggest fan.
I'm saying it because whoever is watching this will see me pointing at them.
Oh yes, you're the best.
Yeah.
So
Right.
That was episode 6 of DoubleBuffs. You can catch us every Thursday. Probably release this early in the morning. And if you want to check out other sports content, you can go to www.blogpoundsports.com or follow our Instagram at the blog pound or on Twitter at non_stop_blogs. DoubleBuffs.